Picture this on the exact same day, Indonesia Defense Minister is shaking hands with the U.S. Secretary of War at the Pentagon. Indonesia President is sitting down with Vladimir Putin in Moscow. Like, how does that even happen in this chaos? Or is this actually genius? Let's talk about it. What's up everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Angel and today we're breaking down something that's been all over international news with this week. Indonesia foreign policy move and whether they're brilliant or a diplomatic disaster waiting to happen. Grab a coffee because this one's actually really interesting. So first let's talk about what happened at the Pentagon on April 13th. Indonesia and the United States formally established what they're calling the Major Defense Cooperation Partnership or MDCP. It was signed between U.S. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth and Indonesian Defense Ministry Jafri Shamsuddin. According to the official joint statement which I've read, it's on the U.S. Department of Defense website. The MDCP has three foundational pillars: military modernization and capacity building, training and professional military education, and exercise and operational cooperation. It has also mentioned that the two countries already complete more than 170 joint military exercises every single year. That's not a small number. But here's where it got more complicated. Just before this signing, multiple Indonesian media outlets reported that U.S. was also requesting blanket overflight access, meaning U.S. military aircraft could fly through Indonesia airspace anytime, just by giving notification rather than getting approval flight by flight. Indonesia's defense minister responds by saying it's still in early stage discussion, a preliminary draft, not final, not binding. But Indonesian Foreign Minister public flagged concern that granting this could undermine Indonesia's long-held non-aligned stance. So even within the government, there's no full consensus. Now, here's the plot twist. While the defense minister was at the Pentagon, President Prabowo was in Moscow, and this wasn't a quick 5-minute photo-op. According to Cabinet Secretary Colonel Teddy Indrawijaya, the meeting lasted 5 hours, 2 hours of formal bilateral talks, and then a 3 hours one-on-one session with Putin. What did they talk about? Based on the official Kremlin readout and statement from Indonesian Foreign Minister Sugiharto, energy cooperation, minerals research, and Russia's support for Indonesia's accession to BRICS, which Indonesia officially joined with Russia's backing. Putin also noted that bilateral trade grew by 12.5% last year. And it wasn't Prabowo's first visit to Moscow either. According to Cabinet Secretary Wijaya, Prabowo and Putin have now met 5 times in various sittings over the past years. Putin even personally invited Prabowo to return to Russia again in May and July 2026 for international event in Kazan and Yekaterinburg. So what is actually going on? To understand this, you need to know about Indonesia's foundational foreign policy doctrine, bebas aktif, free and active. It's been Indonesia's diplomatic DNA since independence. The idea is that Indonesia doesn't join military blocs, doesn't pick side in the great power virus. Instead, it actively engages all major powers on its own terms. And Prabowo is clearly testing just how far that doctrine can stretch. In February 2026, Indonesia signs a new security agreement with Australia. Then it signed a trade deal with the US and the agreement on reciprocal trade. Then the MDCP with the US, and now deeper energy and economic ties with Russia. On top of that, Indonesia has also established a joint foreign and defense ministerial dialogue with China since 2025. That's the US, Australia, Russia, and China, all in the span of a few months. And here's the strategic logic, at least from Jakarta's point of view. Indonesia sits on some of the most critical geography on Earth. Prabowo himself said that 70% of its Asia's energy needs and trade pass through Indonesian waters. The Strait of Malacca, the Sunda Strait, and the Makassar Strait. The U.S. Energy Information Administration confirmed over 94,000 vessels transit through the Strait of Malacca in 2024 alone. If you control access to that geography, you have leverage. And Prabowo seems to be using that leverage to deal with everyone simultaneously. Bottom line, what Indonesia did on April 13 is genuinely fascinating and historically significant. And it tells us a lot about where the world is headed and how middle power are navigating it. I'll leave you with this question. Is bebas aktif still a viable doctrine in 2026, or does Indonesia need to get clearer about what it actually stands for? Let me know in the comment. Subscribe if you want more. I post every week. See you next one.